Never go back to your ex who broke you. So to my fellow Filipino citizens out there, let's focus on the present to prepare for the future. Never repeat the mistakes from the past. As a matter of fact, our political leaders here in the Philippines have a good background in crime and corruption. Do you know that there are convicted political leaders sitting in the government? Let's just call them you-know-who. Hey, it's me, Rubeauti! This video does not aim to devalue my home country, okay? So calm down. But mainly to let you know the reasons, and my opinions also, why we are facing poverty over and over again like it's forever. That's the only thing that's forever here in the Philippines. It lasts longer than your relationship with your ex. I am doing this because I want you to know, my foreign pals, that in a third world country, or developing country rather, poverty still makes Filipinos grapple for a living until today. Yes, you heard it right. We are a developing country, although most of us Filipinos don't feel the development. The Philippines consists of 7,100 strings of islands. That's numerous. The more the merrier, right? But that's not the exact case here in the Philippines. Although we are already a developing country, the poverty in our place is a big deal. It's a real social issue that the Philippine government should at least weaken, because I know it can't be totally eradicated. Let's talk about the more the merrier. According to the recent survey of the Social Weather Station, 48% of the families consider themselves poor in the second quarter of 2022. Now, where's the fun of the more the merrier? If you come to think of it, with some 109 million people in 2020, the Philippines is now the 13th most populous country in the world. And almost or nearly half of the Filipinos do not have the privilege of living a comfortable life. So again, the Philippines is already a developing country, but that doesn't mean that we are no longer poor. And to frankly say this, we were originally a rich country, abundant in natural resources, until the rich countries invaded our country with their so-called divine, religious, and civilization mission. Like, every powerful country wants to dominate the world, and the inferior ones, such as the Philippines, was oppressed here and there. So look at us today. We became accustomed to saying we are weak and we are poor country. The poverty in the Philippines, its causes and its effect on our country's development, I think I'm going to give the three fundamental standards that I think to say that a country is stable and progressive. Let's see if the Philippines qualify in these three. Of course, a country must have a progressive economy, values education, and its people should have an easy access to health services. Now, these three must be provided by the country's government itself. That's what I believe. Now, in terms of economy, it means that the employment rate of Filipinos must be in a positive condition. Citizens who are employed must be greater than those who are jobless. The small businesses that provides local products and services must be provided by the government. So these so-called micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, could create jobs so that so those who do not have work can contribute to creating income opportunities. MSMEs are the backbone of the Philippine economy. They are simply small businesses that needed laborers who would serve and cater to the needs of the local community. Now, if the government will not provide support to strengthen these small businesses, the local economy won't run, because there will be no job opportunities where jobless people could have worked on. Everyone knows, I know that it's not only the Philippines who is struggling. Everyone knows life today is a struggle, especially if you are jobless. Let's focus on the MSMEs and the agricultural sector have got to do in the Philippines poverty issue. Do you know that there are convicted political leaders sitting in the government? Let's just call them you-know-who. You-know-who cares more about the profits they will get, so they prioritize the needs of the capitalists over the small business owners who could have driven the local economy to flourish and be recognized. MSMEs are important. It could help reduce poverty by creating employment. What happens here is that self-serving politicians in our country collaborate with the capitalists where big corporations and private companies compete, leaving the small businesses striving to catch up. The government does not intervene, so the chronic capitalists advance in the business industry, and the micro, small to medium enterprises were often left no choice but to give their businesses up because they cannot profit or earn well because the products from the big corporations attract more customers. Well, it's actually a broad discussion, but I just want to give you a quick details of it on what's happening here in the Philippines. But that's why the poor are becoming poorer and the rich are becoming richer. Another thing is the agricultural sector in the Philippines. Land reform is still an issue that led our country to struggle to alleviate poverty. The truth is, the agrarian reform in our country is not genuine because there are still cases where Filipino farmers protest for fair distribution of land. If you believe that hard work makes one rich, then why is it that our dear Filipino farmers die poor? The problem here roots in the unfair tenancy contract. They are indebted to their landlords when they should own the land they till. The main income is received by the landlords while the farmers receive low wages after planting crops and growing grains under the scorching heat of the sun. It's so unfair. Why do the farmers do the hardest job and they are the poor ones? Why are they the ones who can't feed themselves when they are the ones feeding the country? Considered the backbone of our society, the agricultural sector responds to our public health needs by ensuring food security for every Filipino. Yet, despite their crucial role, Filipino agricultural workers remain among the poorest and most disadvantaged groups in our society. And also, one thing is the country's geographical location where we are at risk of natural disasters makes us more vulnerable to poverty because it destroys livelihood where the economic and agricultural activity would decrease. But to be honest, the government doesn't have any program or support for the farmers in situations like this. Farmers complained more about the damage caused by the consecutive typhoons. The persistent rainfall and strong winds submerged their fields in floodwater and destroyed much of their crops. What struck me most was how these situations had become normal among the farmers. They tend to view crisis as beyond their control and had gradually learned to develop an acceptance of their condition. As one of the farmers put it, wala nang magagawa, wala naman may gusto nun eh. For them, crises are a fact of life, that they are inevitable risk associated with farming. How about education? The number of public schools than private academic institutions is greater in number here in the Philippines. But there are still children who cannot go to school. Why? Because their parents could not afford it, especially with the expenses spent on the uniform, school supplies. First of all, parents who have low income will have no choice but to prioritize food for the family. School materials are already burdened to them. But you know what? Parents should not complain too much about the burdens of sending their children to school because it is their responsibility to do so. But it seems like it's not the case here in the Philippines. The children were born to see the world, and thus, as parents, they must be ready to spend and provide for all the necessities of their children. Because what's toxic here in the Philippines is that people who lack income still have the guts to make babies. The less fortunate people are the ones who have many babies. These babies will grow up bearing the burden of the responsibility of their parents. Children should never be indebted to their parents, right? Children owe their parents nothing. In fact, it is the parents who owe their children everything. Me, as a daughter, I didn't choose to be born. Although I'm very grateful that my parents made me. They decided to create me, so they must provide all the things that I need to prepare me to become independent. Let's just say it like that. But here, if you know about utang na loob, like debt of gratitude. And also, speaking of parental issues, sex education must also be given concern because ignorance of contraception leads to uncontrolled teenage pregnancy incidents. And unfortunately, since we are a predominantly Catholic country, sex is something that's still considered taboo, so it becomes awkward to be discussed among people. Teenage pregnancy contributes to poverty because it leads to growing population. And a greater population demands greater food and natural resources. You know what? I remember me and my friends, we used to say in our province, in our barangay, we used to say that our barangay is a baby making factory. There's just a lot of kids there. Another problem in our education here is that the students are only pushed to memorize terms, not comprehend them. Students should be trained on thinking critically and motivated to become future contributors to the wellness of our country. One thing is that the brilliant ones are serving other countries, the rich countries, the big countries. Why is that? Because wages here are too low, no matter how smart and good you are. And to be honest, the reality here is, brilliant or not, companies or businesses' qualifications are too high to reach. A lot of Filipinos are applying for jobs that offer very low salary just to be rejected by those companies because the people are not enough qualified for the job as per the company's assessment. So what the people do is they are going to find a job abroad like UAE, and then they will be able to get a job. They will be even offered a higher position and much higher salary, of course. Why, Philippines? Why are you so cruel to your people? And also, one important thing I would like to stress is the standard of education here. I don't know how it is in your country, but here it seems like what I said earlier, they only push the students to memorize, not comprehend. Many say that education here is too easy. College is too easy. Maybe that is also one of the reasons why we are overflowing with jobless college graduates. Because it is easy to get a degree. You just need to pay the tuition fee and comply with the requirements for 4 years. Et voila! You have a degree. Of course, except for the more difficult studies like engineering, medtech, law. Those are expensive studies and not everyone can afford it. Even in public schools, the poor still cannot afford it. So no matter how smart they are, no matter how good they are, they would always choose the easiest study, the easiest course, just to get a degree, just to finish college. And also, let's say that education is essential, of course, and a good start to terminating poverty, because it will make us Filipinos more knowledgeable and less ignorant of the manipulative schemes of those politicians who keep fooling us to vote for them so they could steal our money again and again. The lack of education makes electorates not ready to choose deserving leaders who are genuinely after providing comfortable living, which all of us can benefit from. As a matter of fact, our political leaders here in the Philippines have a good background in crime and corruption. And who elects them? Of course, the people. The electorates themselves lack proper and adequate education. That's it. And finally, the health sector. In the Philippines, like I said in my previous vlogs, hospitals won't accept about-to-die patients if their families could not immediately pay for the bills. It's money versus life. People who don't have access to medical assistance would resort to albularyos or folk healers, which sometimes worsen the health problems of the patient. Yeah, the albularios are like fake doctors, quack doctors as they call it. Sometimes they would say that, oh, you have a bad spirit inside you. There's an evil spirit inside you, and we have to remove that so you can feel better and remove that joint pain that you are feeling. Like that. Sometimes they pretend to be like a therapist, People who are unhealthy cannot easily contribute to the development of the country. So how would poverty be eliminated if the citizens' health is not looked after? You cannot do your job if you're sick. Poverty in the Philippines is a recurring social problem. In my opinion, reducing the poverty rate will begin with electing the leader who truly cares for the welfare of the people. Someone who is after a big positive change for the lives of the many, especially the poor one. Yes, there are many poor people in our country, but the Philippines is rich. It's the people who use this land who are making poverty. But it can be resolved by choosing the right political leaders with clean records. Plus imposing the importance of education so our citizens could go further and do better than the older generations before. So to my fellow Filipino citizens out there, let's focus on the present to prepare for the future. Never repeat the mistakes from the past. Never go back to your ex who broke you. It's how we learn and grow. I'll see you in my next video.